James Osborne from the Recruitment Network. Good morning, sir.
Morning, Pete. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Good. A little bit earlier than you at the moment, so I'm trying to wake up. You're trying to go to bed.
I know. So we're working with 8 a.m. UK and 7 p.m. Australia. So technically speaking, you should have a coffee. Technically speaking, I should have a beer. But I don't think either of us are partaking. How are you? How's lockdown 2.0 going so far?
Going great. It's I think it's very different from lockdown 1.0 because we sort of know how to do it now. So it's good. I'm loving it. We're really productive. We're busy. It's all absolutely fine. We're just cracking on, really. So it is what it is.
It's interesting. I've just been swapping a few WhatsApp messages with my business partner Frank, and he said to me, he said, "Look, don't tell anybody." He said, "But it's kind of like business as usual." He said, "Look, the pubs are shut." He said, "But we're all just kind of cracking on, and as you say, we're following the rules. We're not bending the rules, but it's still, life continues. So that's encouraging."
Well, even the pubs. I mean, the pubs are shut, but they're still doing delivery. So there's plenty of drinking going on. There's plenty of people having a good time, and that type of stuff. I've actually given up drinking for a while, so I thought I'm going to use this as a good opportunity to get mega fit and mega healthy. So the fact that pubs are closed doesn't really affect me right now. It's actually probably a good thing.
There you go. There you go. Silver lining. Well, James, again, thank you so much for being involved in Recruitment Journeys, the podcast series. Look, you're a little bit of an exception to the rule. What we usually do is we usually speak to chosen Australian recruitment identities about their recruitment journey, how they got from A to Z. You're a little bit different in the sense that you're over in the UK, but it's nice to make exceptions every now and then. But what we do, James, we talk to you about your journey, and for the purpose of this conversation, we're going to put you in a box. We're going to give you a title, and your title is The Recruiter Who Wants to Make a Positive Difference, and we'll unpack that as we get into the discussion. But I've already given the viewers and the listeners a little bit of an introduction as to who James Osborne is. But in your own words, sir, can you tell us who you are?
Yeah, I'm an advisor and mentor to the recruitment sector. I chair an organisation called the Recruitment Network, which is a community of recruitment leaders all over the world that basically work collaboratively together to support each other and help each other grow, survive moments like this, and thrive in the good times.
Yeah, well, I'm going to be keen to find out how your role and how your business has adapted to COVID, but we'll get to that later. What are your membership numbers looking like nowadays, James?
It's pretty good, actually. It's I think because of COVID, we've grown significantly. I think it's times like these when recruitment organisations, recruitment leaders need as much support and advice as they can get. And so consequently, we've grown massively over this time, which is great. We've got about 4,700 in the whole community, which is great. And then we have different membership tiers as well. So it's a big community now, which is great, and a lot of interaction, which is good.
And tell me, how many of those, just to put you on the spot, off the top of your head, how many of those are in Australia?
Well, not very many in Australia. So we're actually in the process of launching in Oz at the moment. We've got some events lined up actually in Oz. So we've never really targeted the Australian market particularly, albeit I've got a lot of history in Australia. So which some people probably I'm sure we'll talk about. But no, we don't work with very many Australian recruitment companies. We've got a few and some good ones. But that's our plan is now to do a lot more work in the Australian market.
Great. Okay. Well, we'll watch that space. So James, I start all of these conversations in exactly the same way. I'm always curious to find out. I often get the same answer actually, which is starting to become a bit frustrating. So hopefully you might have something different. But how and why did you break into the wonderful world of recruitment?
This is where I start with I fell into it.
Yeah.
Conversation.
Yeah.
So sorry to disappoint you. I did fall into it a little bit. So I came into recruitment quite late. Actually, I came into work quite late. Full stop. So I think after university, I decided I wanted to travel the world, understand the world. I wanted to understand different cultures and that type of stuff. So I went off and got taught to become a sailing and scuba diving instructor. So that would give me something to basically travel the world with and use as a way of earning money as I went. And cut a long story short, ended up working in the Caribbean and lovely places, lived on boats and all that sort of good stuff. Had really long, crazy hair, longer and crazier than it is in my current lockdown look. And like most people do when you're into sailing and scuba diving, you end up at some point in Australia on the Great Barrier Reef. I ended up working up in the Whitsunday Islands, which I fell in love with. Whitehaven Beach, for those of you who know it, was my office, so it wasn't a bad place to wake up to every day and commute to. And so I did that for a while, and then we ended up moving down to Sydney with my now wife, and we moved down to Sydney, and I was working on some boats down there. And like anything, I knew someone who worked at a recruitment company, and I was looking for some temp work. So I got called into this recruitment company, got some temp work. I think my first job was measuring and auditing the waste on the night shift at Sydney airports. So we used to have to collect all the garbage at night at the airport and then assess what was in it and then weigh it and then mark it down and then do that all night long.
Awesome.
So it was good money. I think I got paid time and a half, double time. That was good.
Yeah.
And did that for a while and then ended up, like anything, getting offered a job within that recruitment company, doing some temping. I was doing some filing and some admin work. And cut a bit of a long story short, me being me, I had quite a lot of opinions about what was working, what was not working in that recruitment company. I was completely out of my station. And I got talking to some people there, made some suggestions. They quite liked me, liked my suggestions. Next thing you know, they sponsored me. And there I was, now a recruiter working in the recruitment sector based down in Sydney, doing a little bit of sailing in the evenings on Sydney Harbour, but that was about it.
The rest is history. Okay. That almost saddens me a little bit, James, to hear that you went from scuba diving in the Whitsundays to doing BD calls in Parramatta, wherever it might have been. That's worlds apart, right? Worlds apart. Okay, so
yeah.
so we're not we haven't got the time to dissect your whole recruitment career here today. But in a nutshell, how long were you actually working coalface recruitment? You were with Drake for quite a few years, weren't you?
Yeah, I worked for Drake for a number of years, and I really enjoyed that. I got really close to a couple of quite senior people at Drake who taught me a hell of a lot at a very young age. In particular, the chairman, Bill Pollock, who he still runs Drake now. And Bill put me on a special project, or I was involved with a project which was around helping turn underperforming branches of Drake at the time back into corporate sort of levels of profitability. So at a very young age, I was learning some really interesting stuff around turning businesses around, turning divisions around, understanding how to manipulate and utilize profitability and that type of stuff. So that was brilliant. I loved that. Learned a hell of a lot. I was an out-and-out salesman, so I spent a lot of time. I had an old British Triumph actually. I used to live out of and travel around the North Coast, going from meeting to meeting to meeting. We had to do 20 client meetings every week. It was brilliant. I loved it. So I soaked that up, which was great. Really learned the craft there. And then I ended up working for Therese Rain, who I'm sure you know from Ingeus. Yeah. I did a lot of work with Therese in her business under a guy called Peter Brown at the time as well. And both Therese and Peter were just phenomenal in what they taught me, what I learned from them. And it was inspirational. I think not only from a business point of view, but also from about how to conduct yourself properly from a business point of view with ethics and values and purpose. So I had a really successful career. I really enjoyed it, thoroughly enjoyed it actually. It was great. And then it just got to a stage where we had to come back to the UK purely for personal reasons. We wanted to have a family and come back to the UK. So I remember going to the top of Australia Square, to the lovely bar up at the top of Australia Square that I presume is still there. Yeah. Sitting down with my boss at the time, Peter Brown, and basically saying, I've got absolutely no idea why I'm telling you this, but I'm having to hand in my resignation and leave. But I've got no reason to it apart from I've got to go home back to the UK, and that was it. So it was a very strange feeling to leave. Because I loved it, and I've got a big heart for Australia, a huge heart for Australia, except for the rugby. So yeah, I had a great time there. Really, and I learned a lot about the industry, a lot about recruitment. I learned a lot about parts of the recruitment sector that I probably shouldn't have been exposed to at such a young age. Yeah,
what an invaluable experience.
Oh, that's brilliant. Yeah.
So at what point did you, I mean, we're kind of fast forwarding in big chunks here, but at what point did you start thinking about the recruitment network? At what point did you start thinking about moving away from coalface recruitment? Because with the experience that you had, James, you could have just gone and done what, let's be honest, what most of us do, just go and start your own recruitment business. Why did you choose to take a different route? Why did you choose to try and create something that was giving the industry something back, rather than, if I'm being honest, what most of us do, which is chase the dollar?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, let's be honest about this. I was chasing a dollar as well, so I can't skirt around the fact I'm not some sort of angel figure that's running around the place trying to save the world. No, I was chasing a dollar as well. When I came back to the UK, I set up a business, another company that I still run today with my business partner. And we set this company up, and it was basically what we decided, what I realized I loved doing was I love the variety. I love working with lots of different things. Now, you're working at Drake International, for example. It's got so many different service lines, so many different sectors. It gets so much variety. In GIS is the same thing. There's so many different things happening. But I love the variety of that, which was great. And I really, really enjoyed going into departments, divisions, entities, coming up with a strategy, help motivate, help implement, help train people to be able to deliver that type of stuff. So really, when I came back to the UK, it was a fairly obvious thing for me that I wanted to be this hybrid guy of doing motivational stuff, whatever that looks like. I don't want to be a motivational speaker because, something really bad is going to happen in your life to be a motivational speaker, it seems, or you have to win a gold medal. I don't have either of those. So, I want to be a motivational person. I like to motivate people and inspire people. I love to develop people. I love training people. And I also love the strategy side of stuff, like really understanding, coming up with opportunities, looking at identifying stuff. So it seemed to make sense to me. It's just to sort of almost like fast track what people would do when they sort of get close to semi-retirement and become an advisor, is do that right at the beginning of my career almost, or my new career back in the UK. So I just started to start doing that, running a consultancy training business. It was under a brand called Energy, which still exists today. And that energy concept was based around, I fervently believe and still do, that to be successful in anything you do in life, business, personal, whatever, you need to have 3 internal energies running. It sounds a bit sort of fluffy, but it's true. One's mental, one's emotional, one's physical. And without those 3, you're nothing. And if one of them are missing, then it doesn't work. So for me, it's about driving those 3 things through people, whether it be, and we work with, at the time, we were working with banks and law firms. We work with some amazing hospitality organizations. I mean, a really eclectic mix of clients, which I loved. And then obviously, because I worked in the recruitment sector back in Oz, we naturally started picking up lots of business with recruitment companies. And then from that just sort of evolved on. And then eventually, fast forward to maybe 4.5 years ago, when a large part of our portfolio were recruitment organizations, and I was now doing the NED stuff and advising more formally. And we thought, what a great chance to launch the Recruitment Network.
Was it quite a revolutionary concept back then to recruiters to share your vision and to have the same mindset? Did you find yourself selling to them, or did you find that they were waiting for this to come along? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question. I mean, there's lots of similar things out there that you can do, right? I mean, we haven't come up with something which is completely unique. You've got governing bodies, like the RCSA and APSCO and the REC and all those guys. They're all doing similar sorts of things to an extent, but I mean, ours is a very different proposition. We partner with the governing bodies and the trade bodies and the trade organizations. So it's a different sort of entity, but the principle of, getting together and sharing with each other is not new. We've all been to sort of events and stuff, where you go there, and I always find it quite funny, you go to some events as a recruiter and you walk up to another recruiter, you go, how's business? And you go, it's great. How's yours going? It's great. It's not, but we say it's great anyway, because that's all part of it, so growing exponentially, another 25 headcount, here we go. And what we realized is actually there's a bunch of people out there in recruitment who actually don't have all the answers, who don't know it all, who want to learn and want to keep evolving and want to share, and actually do want to help each other out as well. And I think, there's always been a bit of a stigma about the recruitment sector, which I've never quite understood. I do get why it comes up, but I never quite get it myself. But, there's a slight stigma about, do I want to hang out with other recruiters, all this type of stuff. And, if you cut through the chaff and move away some of the classic stuff that you see that probably we would want to walk away from, there's a heartbeat in our industry of a generally bloody good bunch of people who are actually out to do a decent thing. Yeah, they want to make a living. They don't all want to make, massive amounts of money and sort of build a business up to exit. Some just want a really good lifestyle business. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. So I think people are quite willing to get together. And I think the reason why we've grown so quickly is just the quality of the members who do that. Our members just really engage with each other. They really do help each other. I mean, sometimes I just sit back and watch all the members interacting with each other, answering all the questions I probably should have been answering anyway, but they do it themselves because at the end of the day, they're at the coalface of it right now. They've got probably better answers than we've got anyway as advisors. So no, I think it makes sense as a concept, and I think people have really, really engaged with it.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, looking at that point that you just made on a micro level, when I started out in recruitment, which is 20 odd years ago, so I was a perm recruiter, and my colleagues on the contract side, we were actively encouraged to dislike them and not to communicate with them and to stay away from them and not socialize with them. And that was in the same company, you know? So imagine what it was like when, you went to the pub and you caught up with the guys from Hayes or Michael Page. You know, it was
yeah, but I mean, the thing to remember, a massive chunk of the recruitment sector are small SME businesses. They're small companies. Yeah. It's the majority of the industry. And running an SME business is damn lonely. You're making stuff up as you go every single day. You're winging it, And unless you can sense check your thinking and ideas with other people who've either been there and done that, or who are going through it currently, and maybe got it wrong and learned from what their mistakes were, then you're just continuously making things up. So the philosophy we have is that we're like an aggregator of content and insights. We don't come around and say we know it all, listen to us. It's like we don't know it all, but if we want to find out the answers, we'll find out the answers for you. But we think if you can have access to that level of content and insights, you're probably going to grow your business anyway. You're probably going to hit your targets and objectives anyway. We think we can just help you fast track that. And that's sort of quite cool, I think, because it just means you can get from A to B a lot quicker, a lot more effectively, a lot more profitably than you probably could do, or possibly could do on your own, which I think is quite nice. Even if it's just listening to other people's ideas and saying, I don't want to do that, I'd rather do it my own way. Fine. It doesn't matter. It's an ability to sense check, which I think is important.
Yeah. Your passion for what you do is obvious, James, which is lovely to hear. Where does that I suppose passion for what you're looking to achieve, where does that come from a personal level?
Yeah, it's quite an interesting one, really. I suppose I've got I think my personal story probably drives more of a thread through my business career than my business story, if that makes sense. So, a lot of the things that have impacted me personally, or I've gone through personally, have really directed how I behave, how I do things as a business, I think. And maybe that's right or wrong, I don't know, but it's how I've done things. So, there have been, like anything, there have been a number of influences in my life from a business point of view. Therese, Peter Brown, as I mentioned before, Greg Ashley, who you may have heard of as well. And these guys who have made a massive difference how I behave, how I do things, how I understand how business should be run through purpose first, profit second. That was the whole concept of some of these guys and how they did things. And it was brilliant. It was inspirational to watch. And sometimes you even question it. It doesn't even add up on paper. Why would you do that? That's too generous. Or, but it's the right thing to do. So that was important because I learned a lot from that. You learn a lot from doing the opposite of what you don't like. And, there's things in our industry that I don't like. There's, I'm generally a very positive bloke. There isn't much I don't like in life, but, there's a few things, and I'll keep it big picture, and the way things are done that I don't particularly approve of in our industry. So that inspires me generally to try and push for the opposite, if that makes sense. So that's always a driver for me. And then, things happen, I've had, like anybody, we have ups and downs. Like in life at the moment, we're going through some incredible ups and downs. I think this is going to transform how people behave after COVID, without doubt. But a number of years ago, my first son, when he was young, TJ, passed away, which is one of those classic life-changing moments. It sort of slaps you across the face like a wet kipper, how I describe it to people. And I've got 2 great kids now, so I'm in a really good place. But it just teaches that sort of stuff, those moments, stuff that we're going through now at COVID. It teaches you so much about what's right, what's wrong, what does life actually mean, what's the whole point of what we're doing here, and all that type of stuff. And don't get me wrong, I'm not some sort of hippie who goes around sort of saying, don't make any money and just give it away for free. I'm here to make money. I'm here to help recruitment organizations drive profitability and growth and, outperform the market and all that type of stuff. And that's what we do. But it's always about putting the purpose in front of that first and foremost. And, I won't break people or hurt people or bully people in order to be successful. I won't do that. There are better ways of being successful as far as I'm concerned. Maybe it's a slower journey to get there. Maybe it's a different journey. And maybe I won't be as successful as some of those other people in the future. I don't know, but it depends what you classify as success. And to me, success leads back into, we've got an opportunity. When Toby, my son, passed away, I made a commitment that day that, life is really short. You have one life. You've got to choose what you do with it. And I'll be buggered if I'm going to sit around watching it fly past. So I'm going to, in my personal life and in my work life and everything, I'm going to just push myself to the extreme level of what I can do and keep pushing and pushing and pushing. And then the more people I can help, the more money I will make as a business, of course. But the more I think I'm probably sort of doing Toby a favour, a sort of a service for in his name, really. So, you know, it's an emotional thing for me. I don't get emotional about it all the time because I now talk about it quite freely and I'm quite relaxed about it. But it's an important thing because at the end of the day, with all that's going on right now, you know, there are people, you can sit back in your houses right now in lockdown, looking at your P&L, looking at your cash flow and everything else. And if you've got enough, then the question really becomes is what are you actually doing right now to make a difference to a world that really needs a difference made to it and people around you. And we've worked for the last 8-9 months flat out. I've seen people really suffer, like really suffer. I've had business leaders in tears. I've worked with people who, you know, some seriously incredibly successful businessmen who are broken at the moment, who have been broken, and they're bouncing back. Don't get me wrong, they've got resilience, they'll come back and they will always will. But, you know, you watch people in this scenario, and this is not just right now about making money and profiteering from a bad situation. Yes, you can do that. Yes, there's opportunities, and yes, you should go for it. And yes, this is a great chance to be a better business. Of course it is. But not at the detriment of other people, and not at the detriment of your true purpose as a human being, I think. And that sounds a bit grandiose, a bit over the top, but I sort of mean it, actually. And I think it's quite important.
Do you think we as an industry, though, we're getting better? We're getting better at being better humans. We're just we're a lot more understanding and empathetic. You know, there's things like, you know, what you and I are. You know, we're both on the we're both champions of mental health and recruitment with Rhonda, and there's enterprises initiatives like this popping up, and we're just leaning on each other. We're helping each other a bit more. And one of the silver linings for me for COVID was the beautiful way that the industry just absolutely cast aside all sense of competition, and we all just put a big arm around each other, and we just helped each other, and we helped pull each other through. Would you think we're doing that? Do you think we're getting better at that kind of stuff anyway as an industry as we get older?
I don't think we're ever bad at it, to be honest with you. I just don't think typically on a day-to-day we ever had a reason to do it. If I'm being honest, I don't think COVID suddenly turned us all into these amazing champion sort of world savers particularly. I think, inherently we are all who we are, and we are all generally good people, and we bounce back, we're resilient, we want to help other people, we don't upset people, and I think that's just generally who we are as people. I think COVID has basically forced us to, or bring it out of us, and not everyone's done that. You look at some of the industry and outside of our industry, some organisations have used this as a chance to do the quite opposite, to sort of put the shutters up and say, everyone, bugger off, I'm here on my own, it's me or nothing, do or die, all that sort of stuff. And fine, that's what they sort of want to do, that's what they want to do. But, generally I think people are good people who want to help each other and support each other. And I think COVID has just fast-tracked that and brought it to the forefront a little bit. Whether that would change our industry going forward, I think our industry is going to change significantly and has changed in other ways. I think it's become far more professionalized because of COVID. I think it's become far more strategic. I think we are positioning ourselves higher up the food chain with our customers now, which is great. So it's far more of a consultancy-led type industry and less so of a sort of a supply product type industry. And I also think, by the way, that, the businesses, certainly the ones that we work with, are coming out far more profitable at the other side of COVID because, revenues and GP and net fee income is down to an extent, not everywhere. And in some cases it's up. But most places are back to sort of 80% now of what they had before, 80, 75% stuff, which is fine because the cost level, the overheads has dropped significantly because we've had to cut costs. We advise everyone to rip out all their costs and move stuff away. And, and suddenly a large chunk of people have realized you can function incredibly well with half the cost that you had pre-COVID and still generate a similar level of income. So guess what happens? Your bottom line EBIT increases, you make more profit. It becomes quite interesting. So the question I've got for a lot of businesses is what are we going to do coming out of COVID to maintain those levels of profitability? What lessons have we learned to run better, more efficient businesses because of this? And everything we're doing at the moment with all the strategy stuff and the planning stuff and the re-engineering of recruitment structures is built around, well, we've learned some really cool lessons here. Our backs are against the wall. We were forced to learn these lessons, but we've learned some lessons. And do you know what? They're pretty cool lessons. So let's keep using them in this. So let's carry on building maybe a better industry that is driven more through the growth of profitability rather than headcount growth. growth of, EBIT rather than necessarily revenue. And then suddenly the sort of the focus around the types of KPIs that you have drives different types of behaviors in the future, which may be a little bit better maybe than what they were in the past. The type of business that we do with our customers is better at the moment, without a shadow of a doubt. We're getting far better quality business, different types of business, more consultancy and stuff, as I talked about. So that's good. And that puts us up the food chain. That then has a recurring effect that, recruiters feel prouder about who they are and what they do because they're up the food chain now. They're talking at a different level with their customers. So we have to play less of the games that we used to play around sales, trying to win a bit of business and everything else. So it just changes everything. And I think that's going to be a really exciting manifestation that's going to come from this. And something that we've embraced with our members and actually said, well, let's quickly now utilize this. So we don't wait for the industry to change. Let's change the industry. And I think that's a really exciting opportunity moving forward, I think.
So has your role, has your existence within TRN completely changed since COVID arrived? I mean, are you basically now just strategizing about life after COVID, or do you get to do all the cool stuff that you were doing beforehand, or has all that just been put to the side?
No, this has been the most extraordinary year of my entire life. I've never worked so hard in my entire life at all. But I love it. I absolutely love it. I mean, when the first lockdown kicked in here in the UK, on the first day, we brought all the team together. Well, they announced when we're allowed to get together. I brought the whole team together in the office, and we all agreed as a team. And this is testament to what an amazing team of people I've got. And we all said, look, two things. Number one, right now, our industry, our members are going to need our help more than ever before. And if you're an advisor, this is when you show up. When it's like it's bloody easy to be an advisor when the markets are great, because you just go, yeah, do more of the same, and you'll make more money. So that's easy. It's pretty hard to be an advisor when the markets are tough. So we said, look, we've got to really show up now. So number one, our commitment to our members is that we're going to work twice as hard over this period, irrespective of what we go through. We're going to double up on the amount of support and effort we put in. And number two, we're going to do it for free. So we actually went out to all of our members on the first day of COVID and said, you no longer have to pay for us for the next 3-6 months. In fact, originally it was 3 months during the lockdown period. We then extended it into 6 months. And we did that because, my job was to, well, there's a number of reasons. We've got a set of values on our wall. We've got a purpose statement on our wall in my office. What's the point of having that on your wall if you don't live by it, number one? And then number two, really, my job was going out to all the members on the first day and saying, right, first thing we're going to do is survival mode. We're going to save your cash. So we're going to cut out as many costs as possible, obliterate all your direct debits, shrink back wherever you possibly can, try and maintain your headcount, but any other costs that you don't need in indirect overheads, get rid of those, blah, 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 blah. And we pushed our members to do that. We remodeled all their finances. And part of that was me saying, well, and therefore don't pay us because we want to cut your costs. I can't go to them, cut your costs, Pete, but at the same time, here's an invoice for doing that. It didn't feel right. So we did that. And you know what? It's the best thing I've ever done, without a shadow of a doubt.
Wow.
And we've come out the other side of it. We've got a great business. We're resilient. We're strong. We've grown massively. So we're fine as a company, and we've grown over this period, which is, so it was, from a commercial point of view, it didn't hurt us. It hurt us at the time. It was painful, but it was part of our strategy to do what we needed to do. But you know what? Working for free for 6 months, when you're really, really supporting people at literally 15-hour days, most days, including weekends, it actually feels great. It's like a terrible thing to say, but it just feels great because suddenly the commercial reason of doing it is gone. You're doing it because genuinely you want to help people. And it's brilliant. And I've learned, and my team have learned, we've all learned, that actually, this purpose motive bit, get that bit right, profits will follow, is absolutely right. And I honestly don't care. I mean, I do care to an extent, but I don't really care, whether my level of profitability as a business over the next 3 to 5 years is there or if it's there. We're going to be profitable. We are a successful business, and we're very happy with what we've got. But, how much profit do I need to squeeze out of my business? Or actually, would I rather just actually make a difference to our members? And, the feedback we got was brilliant. And this is not me, this is my team. My team pulled their shift. They really, and they still are. And it's wonderful to watch. You learn a lot about your team as well over this time. And I think that's great. So has my role changed massively? We haven't done all our big events that we do. We used to run like 140 events a year for our members, face to face. That's all obviously stopped right now. But I'm doing the equivalent of 140 Zoom calls a week So, you know, what's not to love about it, which is great. I go back to my old days, and I keep saying this to recruiters, you know, I had to do 20 client meetings a week back in Drake days, running around North Sydney and up to Parramatta and all those places. And now I'm doing 20 client calls a week on Zoom. It's great. So
what have you what have you learned about yourself, James, during this time? That's deep, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm getting emotional now. No, what have I learned about myself? I've learned that I can't stand negativity. I can't stand negativity. It drives me insane.
But that didn't you know that about yourself before COVID?
Yeah, but I think everything during COVID has been sort of like just massively magnified at the moment. Everything's been magnified, and it's really, really intense. I mean, I do love the intensity of the moment. I have to say, it just feels great. It's a little bit like it reminds me a lot of my sailing days, actually, when you're skippering a yacht, and suddenly the proverbial hits the fan, and you're in the middle of an ocean, and the wind picks up. There's a massive hoolie coming in. You've got all your full sail out, all your canvas up. The waves, and you just got to do something. You can't sit there and go, oh, I don't know, I'm just going to stop for a bit and think about this. You just got to make snap decisions and get on with it. And I love that about our business, that we do that. So I've learned a lot about myself that I think that's probably helped me a little bit in this process. I think it's interesting. I think I'm very resilient to an extent. So there's some things that literally just bounce off me, you know, like the classic, you know, you get like bullies and on trolls online, and you get people poking at you and all that sort of stuff. That literally bounced off me. I actually find it quite positive in a funny sort of way. It actually drives me to do more. On the flip side of that, I've also learned my limits as well. I've realized that I think I've probably worked too hard over this period. I think I haven't really created a good enough boundary between that most people have: work from home, when does work off, when does home start, sort of stuff. So I found that a challenge from time to time. I've got away with it so far, which is good. But it's a realization that, you know, Christmas can't come quicker than it is going to come. And what have I learned? What have I learned about myself? I've learned that I can't do what I do without great people around me. You know, that's an old cliche, right? Every business book you read is all about surrounding yourself with great people. Blah, blah, blah. It's absolutely true. I've got the most incredible board. So the board that we brought on, you know, Graham, Simon, Gary King, Tony Goodwin. I mean, these guys are just phenomenal people who are amazing at what they do and amazingly caring people. I love my board meetings. Now I stress about them. I've got to write big board reports and that stuff, and I get grilled. I love them. They're brilliant. And they're such a great bunch of people. So I've got a great bunch of people on the board. I've got an amazing team of people. I've got an amazing group of members that I get to engage with, and the partners. We work with some great partners as well. So, you know, I'd be nothing without that. I'd be a one-man band spouting off the same stuff about, here's my idea about how to run a recruitment company. Do you want to buy it? And it's a bit like, no, not really. It's because there's lots of that out there. I don't know it all. I know that. I don't profess to knowing it all, but I surround myself with, I think, with enough people who do know it all between us. And I think I've realized that that's really important part of this. We, you know, and that whole piece, you know, we're all in this together. Yeah, we really are all in this together. And yes, there's the analogy of different boats, different storms, seas, whatever you know the analogy. But, you know, we are all in this together. It's just as simple as that. And I think, you know, together we will come out of this stronger, better businesses, without doubt. Together we'll come out as better people. So yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Let's talk about the future, James. I'm not expecting you to, I'm not going to hold you to this, but, and I suppose you're only looking at the UK and we're here in Australia, but are you, when you look at 2021, because in my mind, I'm thinking 2021 is still going to be a little bit ropey. There'll be a gradual upwards trajectory, but 2022, the floodgates are going to open and we're all going to go crazy in the streets. It's going to be amazing. What do you foresee? What do you think 2021 is going to look like?
Yeah, I have to disagree with you slightly, actually. I think your crazy euphoria moment is going to be sooner than you think.
Right.
I think the industry is a lot better than, you know, the economy is a lot better than people make out.
Yeah.
And yes, it's been scarred, and yes, there's debt everywhere. And of course there is that type of stuff, but we came into COVID pretty strong anyway. So the economy is bouncing back. That's fine. And there's a big shifting movement of cash and finances around our country at the moment, in the UK and around the world, which probably needed to happen to an extent. I'm hoping this is going to have a successful job at trying to sort of balance out some of that disparity between sort of the rich and poor around the world, and which sounds like a bizarre thing to say, because generally the people who get hurt the most in these environments are the ones who are sort of lower level paid people. But actually I think that's going to shift and change quite a bit. At the moment, the NHS workers in the UK, for example, the bin men outside my house and so on and so forth, the ones I cheer more than I do the business people who are sort of screwing people over right now to try and save their offices. So I think that's going to have a real shift, which I think is interesting. I think they're going to get more impetus and therefore more value. I hope so anyway. So I think the industry is bouncing back comfortably at the moment. I think we've worked out how to manage COVID and work through COVID. Businesses working from home, that type of stuff is fine. It's okay. Recruitment particularly, you can do it from home in most industries. That's fine. Yes, there's talk about all these different vaccines and that type of stuff, which I think is good. I question whether the vaccine is going to come that quickly. I don't know. The vaccine announcements are great though, because it just changes people's behavior. So everyone gets excited, everyone starts spending more money, the economy starts booming again, and off it goes. So that's fine. So I think once we've got out of these sort of lockdown periods, we've learned how to manage that better. Then I think, as we've been proven in the economy in the UK, in the last quarter, we came out of recession, we bounced back out again, sort of stuff. It's going to drop back down slightly because of the lockdown, but generally we know that we can come out of this, so we're resilient. So I think we're coming back a lot quicker. And I do think, again, going back to my point, is the markets are going to be challenging, possibly, but not at the same time, because it's just a different type of business now. And I use this analogy a lot of people is, don't look at these times as difficult. They're not difficult, they're just different. And therefore just do things differently right now. Greg Savage talks a lot about how we're going to be like an elastic band and bounce back to what we were before. And I think he's absolutely right to an extent. There will be a lot of that. But I also think that the markets now are ripe to really capture and do some interesting stuff. So my personal predictions, I'm going to put this on a statement now on camera, this will be a risky one. I think by March, the economy will be in a really good place again. A long way to go, still going in the right, I'm talking about trajectory here as opposed to back. It should be. Trajectory-wise, I think it'll be back, and by March, I'm pretty convinced by it. And then slowly we'll start evolving and adapting from there. But think about all the new opportunities that have been created right now in the market. It's been massive amounts of opportunities, huge, exciting.
So many and so many recruitment businesses have been created. So many startups have been created off the back of COVID. Well, certainly over here, so many people have thought, well, this is the perfect opportunity to start a recruitment business. So many people have lost their jobs and they, well, I was going to start a recruitment business anyway, so I may as well do it now. And those businesses in 5 years' time will be medium-sized organizations.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's part of the cycle, right? And it's a sad thing to say, but this is a typical cycle you get. You don't typically get one that's got a global pandemic attached to it, but you get these cycles, and it's just we know it will pass. We'll know we're going to come out of it. The question is when exactly, but I reckon we've got a rough idea now, more or less. But we also know that it doesn't need to pass for us to be able to carry on doing business right now. It's like the old thing, from a sales point of view. There's a whole chunk of our industry suddenly stopped selling during the COVID period. It's like, no, don't sell because it's a pandemic. It's like, you're kidding me, right? This is a time when you should be selling, but do it in a different way. But sell more than you've ever sold before. Don't stop selling in a bloody global pandemic. That's the last thing you want to be doing. So, it's just a case of just think about what you're doing and adapt it. I hate to use the word pivot, but it's a good word because it's true. And I think to an extent, as Churchill, he said, never waste a good crisis. He's sort of right to an extent. There is a huge amount of opportunities here. There's a lot of pain as well. There's a lot of stuff going on around the world, which is not pretty. And I'm really sorry for that. And, we work with companies all over the world. So you hear very, very different stories per Zoom call, depending whether in India, in Australia, US, wherever. It's very different stories. But the one common thread that comes out of it is that everyone believes we're going to come out of this. And everyone is quite excited about what's going to happen on the other side. So that's pretty cool.
So in closing, James, before I let you go, let's talk about Australia. You just mentioned Australia's a little bit more firmly on your radar. That's exciting to hear.
Yeah.
When do you think that will be executed? What do you think that'll look like? I'd love to know more.
Yeah, well, so our model changed over COVID, obviously, because we created more of a virtual model. So we have different tiers of membership. So the club membership that we have is very much the UK membership, which is very much where we're very hands-on and touch the flesh type stuff, or as much as we can. But we have two other tiers of membership now called TRN World and TRN World Plus, which are basically online membership things. And it's obviously a lot cheaper, but it's a lot easier to administer. and it's all online, and it's absolutely brilliant. I mean, we're so proud about these 2 membership tiers that we've created. So we're launching those at the moment. We've got a bunch of people in Australia who've been asking us to come to us for a number of years now. There seems to be a good appetite for our type of thing out there in Australia, which is good. Hopefully we're accepted. You know, these Poms turning up with the big hair and saying, you know, hello, g'day, that type of stuff. Sorry about the rugby. Can we turn up and give you some advice type stuff? You know, and we're not here to come out and patronise or anything like that. Yeah. It's about how can we actually just cross the borders and share best practice amongst the two. Because I think we can all learn from each other, as I said before. Yeah. I'm also hoping at the back of you know, what's going on with COVID and everything else, there's going to be a lot more trade opportunities happening with the Australian and UK markets as well. So that could be a really exciting piece as well. So we're in the process of launching now. We're live in Australia as we speak. We've got members in Australia. We're doing a big push towards the back end of this year into the beginning of 2021. And we'll be running a load of events over there, albeit virtual, to kick off with. And we'd love to get involved and join. And it's, again, you know, our objective is really simple. We're here to make a difference. And the only way that we can grow our membership, and the only way we can retain our membership, which we do very well at the moment, is by making sure that members of the Recruitment Network are growing, are increasing their profitability, are enjoying their job, are achieving their objectives, and are outperforming the marketplace. So it's sort of a win-win situation. If we don't do our bit, then you won't have a membership community. So it's sort of, you know, we've got to help you.
Yeah, oh, look, it's exciting, and I think Australia does need something like the Recruitment Network, and I think there's a need for it, and I think we would embrace something like that. So I'll be looking into it myself. Let me know if I can do anything to help increase your network. Yeah. And I'm pumped by your very bullish predictions about the economy, James. I'm going to be I'll be very happy this evening.
Well, we'll share a schooner at some point together when we'll find out the results.
Absolutely. Well, James, look, I'll let you crack on with the rest of your day. Thank you so much for being involved. I really do appreciate it. And yeah, good luck getting through the next few months.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot, Peter. I really appreciate it. Cheers.
James, take care.